Hello everyone. In this video we'll be discussing how to set up the C++ development environment for the project, and then we'll be setting up Git, Visual Studio Code, and after that we'll be adding a file and then pushing the file to the main server, that is the repository which was made for each one of us in source account. So the first thing which we need to do is download the Visual Studio Code code editor. It's available for all the major platforms, Windows, Unix and Mac as well. So you need this file first of all. For Windows you can download from here. And then the next software that we need is tdmz compiler. This is basically a port of the GCC compiler for Windows, and you will get the compiled binaries on SourceForge. These links will be there in the description itself. So once you have downloaded these two files, you will get two files like this. First of all, let's set up tdmgcc. Okay, simply go to create a new tdmgcc installation. Next. Just leave the installation directory as the default. Okay, and make sure you add the GCC thing, and it will install the compilers for C and C++ both. So it will take some time to install. By the time we'll be needing one more file, that is Git. Git is basically a version control system, so you can get. So, and it is also available for all the major operating systems. Git-scm.org. The link for this as well will be in the description. You can download for Windows and all the other platforms as well. Okay. So as you can see that now the installation is complete. We do not want the readme file at all. Okay. The next software which you need to install is VSCode. Yes, you have to accept the agreement first of all. Next, moving on. Extra icon. Yes. Make sure you add it to the path. Install. The next software that we need to install is Git, so I'll be running the installer now. So just leave the installation directory as default. I'll recommend that one. Most of you will not get that error basically. So make sure you download Git Bash and just go with the defaults. Yeah, use Vim. Yes, just leave everything as default. And then you will install the version controlling system. So by the time Git installs, let me show you one important step. See, since the repositories are already made, once you go to GitHub, you'll be required to sign in here with your username and password. Okay. Once you have logged in, you'll start seeing the repositories that are made because basically the repositories are private, so you cannot see them once if you have not logged in. So this is the repository for my project. I'll be closing these download pages, they're not required now. Okay. So by the time Git finishes installation, let me open VSCode. You can close them, they're not required. Okay, so we have VS Code open here, and Git has finished installing. So the first thing which we are going to do is we are going to use terminal for our basic operations. So one method to open a terminal is you go to terminal and then you select new terminal, or you can use the shortcut control shift and the tilde. Take some light time to load because this is the first time it's opening. Yeah, the basic commands are working. Others might see CMD or PowerShell here, but it just makes no difference. Okay, so I'll be opening my desktop. So CD is for change directory, and then you can just press the tab for D and E. You'll get desktop. So I've changed my directory to desktop, as you can see. Now what you need to do is you need to go to the project repository. Repository basically means a folder on the internet. Go to clone here and download, and you copy this link. So the first command which we are using is git clone. Git clone, what it does is it basically copies the repository from the server to a local file. To paste, the shortcut in Unix systems is Control Shift V or Control Insert in CMD systems. So what this command will do, it will basically download the file from the server to your local machine. Okay, it's done now. Again, ls to see the content of the desktop. You can see all the effects as well. I will go to CD for change directory. Now as you can see, there's only one file in the repository right now, which is readme.md. So the next command which you must know is git status. So what git status does is git status shows the current status of the repository. You can see written master over here. Here you might not see this in CMD or PowerShell because see these features are terminal dependent. So master basically means the branch on which you're working on. You can see the master is here. This master corresponds to this master. So the first thing which you need to do is we must see if our compilers in Git is properly installed. So we use Git commands, right? Git status and get all. It means that Git is installed and properly configured. Now the next thing which we installed was main GW, which means our GCC should work. Okay, GCC works. G++ should work. That also works. So now what we are going to do is you can add file. There will be an option as open folder. With opening folder, what you can do is you can basically add all the files of that project into the editor so that you can easily access them whenever and wherever you want. The window shall reload one time because it basically opens a new environment for your new project. Now if you click on readme.md, this file, as you can see, is the same very particular file which was there in the repository. What I will do is, okay, let's show you one thing. You put git status here. You see that there's nothing to commit. What I do is I add a simple description here. Just I'll shift the line. You can use Alt and upward and downward arrows to move a line. You see a simple chatbot implemented in C++. Let's say that that's the description over here. Now this readme.md stands for Markdown, which is basically a markup language. So you can add basic stylings like this will this just added the bold formatting to it. So there are various styles like that, you can use them. Team members, you can like dash space. What this will do is it will just basically make a list of all the elements in there. As you can see the bottom list. So you can read more about it in Markdown formatting. Okay, now let's just save it. Control S. The lines which you see here, these basically represent that blue means they are edited and green means that new additions were made. If you click on this particular source control tab, you can see that yes, changes were made in readme.md. And if you click on it, it shall show you the differences that were there in the previous file and the new file. So basically, this is what a version control system does on a very low level. Is that like there are a lot of other functionalities, but these are the basic functionalities. It shows you the changes which were made after the last checkpoint. Checkpoints are called commits in visual version control. So let's do git status here. It should ideally show us the differences that we have made. Okay, it shows that we've modified readme.md. Okay, now let's create a file. Create a file is one method is you use this new file button and then you write like app.cpp. This will be the main file of my project application. Okay, so before we start programming, like you okay, the first thing is, since we're using a modern code editor, there are a lot of features that we actually should use. One of them is extensions. Extensions basically increase the functionality of the code editor. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, I'll definitely recommend a few recommendations, few extensions. First being C++. This is developed by Microsoft itself. It has been enabled by default because I had VSCode installed before in itself. And C++ intelligence, it will allow you to like automatically complete, right? And one more important thing is, if you want to change the configuration, so you can like shift control shift P and then you can say theme. So preference color themes, you can choose the theme which you want. I'll prefer this one. Okay, so this is how you can basically configure the files. And let's add a few lines of comment. Okay, so the comments are added. Now let's put a simple C out here. Okay, so earlier git status told us that we had modified readme.md. This time git status would tell us that yes, we have added a new file, that is app.cpp. Now these are colored in red. The reason being, there's one thing known as staging commits, staging files. Staging files means that those files will be added to the checkpoints. At this time, if you commit, or if commit basically means you make a checkpoint, at this time, if you make a checkpoint, then these two files will not be added to it. So let's do one thing. We must to add. If you want to add a particular file, you can use git add and then the name of the file. If I want to add readme.md, it will show you git add readme.md. Now, if you do git status, it would be changed. It would change to green, and the app.cp still remains to red. So if you want to add all the files that are there in directory, you do git add and a dot. Dot means to add everything. If you do git status now, all the files are there. And let's do one thing. Over time, as the size of the project grows, there will be files that you do not want to upload, but only use in your local directory. So there's a particular configuration file which is called git ignore. So you create a new file dot git ignore. So git ignore does is every file or every wildcard which goes into this particular file configuration file will be ignored by the git version control system. So let me show you an example. If you do git status right now, okay, and let's add a.out or a.exe. A.outs are created in Unix systems and a.exe will be created in Windows. Okay. Now let's add all the files. Okay. Let's try compiling a code. We do g++ app.cpp. It must properly compile and generate a.exe file. Okay, now let's do ls. In Windows systems, you'll be required to do dir, not ls. For some reason, I don't know why it's slowing down a lot. Okay, there's a.exe. So I do dot slash a.exe. Okay, you see the output. Now some of you might have the question that why is there a dot slash before a.exe? I could have simply done a.exe. A.exe in Unix systems, a.exe would basically go to the environment level, so like user slash bin, and then it would search for the file a.exe. But like a.exe would definitely work in CMD, might not work in PowerShell, and will definitely not work in Unix systems. So it's always good to add dot slash, because when you put dot slash, it tells the computer to look in the current directory. Dot slash means the current directory, and then you put a.exe, which means that a.exe in the current directory. So there'll be no permission issues. Now let's do git status. Okay. One thing, a.exe was there in the directory, but even after we do git status, a.exe's current status is not being shown. You're not being shown that a.exe is a new file, right? So that is basically the job of gitignore. Gitignore does this. Gitignore asks Git to not view these files, basically ignore these files. Now we are going to make a create a checkpoint. So we do git commit. So in as the period of your project grows, the number of checkpoints or the number of visible endpoints that you'll create will increase definitely. So you need something to help yourself identify these checkpoints. So you can create a short message along with them. So dash m stands for a small message, and then you put hello world, right? So this has been done. Now if you look at status, it will not show you any changes. The reason being you have it shows you it's ahead of origin slash master by one commit. It means that you're one checkpoint ahead, and then there are no further changes after that checkpoint. So the next command to push the code from your current directory, which means that to take everything that you have done from this particular directory to the server, which means that this particular repository which is hosted on GitHub, right? You put git push origin master. Origin means the current like the current repository which you have, and master means the branch to which you want to push. Okay, it says published. Now if I refresh this page, I shall see that yes, there's app.cpp and the description has changed. So that is basically it, how you add your more files and all. If you have any doubts regarding it or how to use it, feel free to message. You can read more about Markdown, how Git works, and extensions and all, themes, everything which you want to customize. Anything else that you must know about Git? When you are coding, you do git add dot to add all the files. Then what you did, git commit dash m some message or commit you can identify as checkpoints, right? And then you do git push origin master. These three are the commands which you will definitely need to do time and again. And okay, one thing, as there are 6 people working on the same project, you will face issues when the other person pushes code to the server and you do not have it. So like for instance, if 2 people are there in my room, in my group, I and Rohan. So if Rohan pushes some changes to this repository and I also push, so there'll be a conflict which is often known as merge conflict or overwrite conflicts. So in order to resolve those, it is often recommended that you do not work on the same file, or if you are doing, you do edits in different line numbers. So let's assume that you guys are not working on the same file. That will be easy for you to manage. And whenever you start working, you might see that there are unpublished changes. So what, or the origin has moved one commit forward, is ahead of you by one commit. So what you need to do is you need to git pull origin master. Now this is very important because this will basically update your repository from the source. Someone else would have seen there are 6 collaborators in one repository, right? So someone else would have, let's assume that Jagan wrote 3 new files and I do not have those files. So in order to update your copy, that is your clone or your repository, your client repository with the server repository, you can use the command git pull origin master. So basically this is it. This is already up to date. But if you have any changes, it will definitely update your client repository. Okay. Okay, this is it guys. Thank you.